What does it mean to be free? Is it the grand, sweeping promise of a constitution? The right to shout your beliefs from the rooftops? The freedom to chase extraordinary wealth, to become anything you dream of? Or is it something quieter? Is it the freedom from things? The freedom from the crushing weight of medical debt? The freedom from the daily fear of violent crime? The freedom from a work culture that consumes your soul, leaving you too exhausted to live? Is freedom the silence between the notes? The unwritten permission to just be? We are taught to look for freedom in the loudest places, in the grandest gestures. But what if the freest country on earth isn't the one that shouts the loudest? What if it's a nation built on pragmatism instead of passion? A country that didn't conquer the world, but conquered the sea itself, just to have a place to call home. This is the story of the Netherlands, a country smaller than West Virginia, with a population more than half of whom live below sea level. A place of profound contradictions. It's a kingdom, but it's one of the most egalitarian societies on the planet. Its people are famously, sometimes brutally, direct, yet they have mastered the art of cozy, intimate living. And according to many metrics of human progress, from childhood happiness to work-life balance, it consistently ranks among the very best places to be alive. The Dutch model of freedom is arguably more radical, more nuanced, and more challenging to our preconceived notions. So, is this tiny, waterlogged nation, famous for tulips and cheese, secretly a blueprint for the future of human society? Is this the freest country in the world? The answers are not simple. They are found in the canals and the cafes, in the boardrooms and the bedrooms, in the past and in the future. The answers will surprise you. They might even change the way you think about your own life. Join us as we explore real life in the Netherlands. To understand freedom in the Netherlands, you must first understand the water. For 1,000 years, the Dutch have been locked in an epic battle with the North Sea. Their struggle is not for empire or for glory, but for existence itself. The old saying goes, God created the world, but the Dutch created the Netherlands. This is not hyperbole. A full quarter of this country is reclaimed land that should, by all rights, be under the waves. It was wrested from the sea, meter by painful meter, through a combination of windmills, dikes, and sheer, bloody-minded determination. This constant existential threat forged the Dutch character. It necessitated a unique form of social contract. You couldn't build a dike alone. Your neighbor, whether you liked him or not, had to do his part. If his section of the dike failed, your land flooded too. Politics, religion, personal disputes, they all had to be set aside for the common goal of staying dry. This is the birth of the Polder model, a system of consensus-based decision-making. It's a political and social philosophy born in the mud, and it is the absolute foundation of Dutch freedom. It teaches a profound lesson. Individual liberty can only truly exist when it is balanced by collective responsibility. It's not about everyone agreeing. It's about everyone talking, everyone compromising, until a solution is found that everyone can live with. It's slow, it can be frustrating, but it builds a society based on trust, not conflict. And that trust is the soil in which every other Dutch freedom is planted. When the world thinks of Dutch freedom, it usually thinks of two things: legalized prostitution and accessible cannabis. For decades, Amsterdam has been the poster child for liberal social policies, a magnet for tourists seeking a taste of the forbidden. But to see this as the core of Dutch freedom is to fundamentally miss the point. It's like judging a library by a single scandalous novel. The Dutch approach isn't born from a desire to be wild and hedonistic. It is born from the most Dutch of all traits, pragmatism. The same logic applies to their famous drug policy. The coffee shops operate under a policy known as gedugbeleid. It's a wonderfully Dutch concept with no perfect English translation. It roughly means a policy of tolerance, or turning a blind eye. The sale of small amounts of cannabis is technically illegal, but the law is simply not enforced. The front door of the coffee shop, selling to the consumer, is tolerated. The back door, where the coffee shop gets its supply, remains illegal. It's a bizarre, paradoxical system. But again, the goal wasn't to create a stoner's paradise. The goal was to separate the market for soft drugs like cannabis from the market for hard drugs like heroin and cocaine. The reasoning was simple. A young person curious about cannabis shouldn't have to go to a dangerous street dealer who might also push something far more deadly. By controlling the point of sale in a relaxed, regulated environment, you break the chain of supply to more dangerous substances. It's not perfect, and many in the Netherlands are now debating the paradox of the back door. But for decades, it has resulted in drug-related health problems and crime rates that are the envy of the world. But perhaps the most profound and most intensely personal of these freedoms is the one that addresses the very end of life. In 2002, the Netherlands became the first country in the world to legalize euthanasia. This was not a decision taken lightly. It was the culmination of 30 years of public debate, court cases, and soul-searching. The Dutch law, the Termination of Life on Request and Assisted Suicide Act, is one of the strictest and most carefully monitored in the world. It is not a simple right to die. It is a right to request assistance in dying, under the most extreme of circumstances. The patient must be suffering unbearably, with no prospect of improvement. The request must be voluntary and well considered, and not one but at least 2 independent doctors must agree that all criteria have been met. This is not the freedom to be reckless with life. The Dutch see it as the ultimate act of compassion, the freedom from a prolonged, painful, and undignified end. It is about granting a final measure of personal autonomy at the moment when all other autonomy has been lost. It is a policy that requires immense social trust. Trust in doctors, trust in the legal system, trust that the motive is compassion, not convenience. That such a policy can exist here and function with broad public support speaks volumes about the maturity and humanity of the society the Dutch have built. These famous freedoms, they are not about rebellion, they are about reality. They are a pragmatic, compassionate attempt to manage the messy, complicated, and sometimes tragic realities of the human condition. For many in the world, the rhythm of life is dictated by the relentless demands of a career. The 40-hour workweek has become a 50 or 60-hour reality. Life happens in the cracks, in the exhausted moments between commutes and deadlines. The Dutch looked at this reality, and once again, asked a simple, pragmatic question. Does it have to be this way? Their answer has led to a work culture that is almost unrecognizable to the outside world. The Netherlands is the undisputed world champion of part-time work. Nearly half of its workforce, and roughly 75% of Dutch women, works part-time. And this is not low-wage, insecure gig work. Part-time work in the Netherlands is protected, professionalized, and respected. Part-time employees receive pro-rated benefits, vacation time, and have strong legal protections. It is a legitimate career path. This has revolutionary consequences for the shape of daily life. It allows for the papa dog or mama dog, the daddy day or mommy day, where one parent takes a day off during the week to be with the children. It fosters a more equitable distribution of domestic labor and childcare. It creates a society that doesn't just pay lip service to the idea of work-life balance, but has structurally engineered it. The result? Dutch workers are among the most productive in the world during the hours they are at work. When you know you're leaving at 5 p.m. sharp, you don't have time for pointless meetings or endless procrastination. The focus is on efficiency, not endurance. This economic freedom, the freedom to choose how much of your life you trade for a paycheck, is reinforced by a robust social safety net. Yes, taxes are high in the Netherlands, but that investment buys a remarkable degree of freedom from fear. If you lose your job, unemployment benefits provide a cushion while you retrain or search for new work. If you get sick, you have access to excellent universal health care, and you will not be bankrupted by it. The law requires employers to continue paying at least 70% of a sick employee's salary for up to 2 years. Think about what that means. The freedom to recover from a serious illness without the terror of losing your home. The freedom to know that if the worst happens, you and your family will not be cast into poverty. This is not socialism in the classic sense. It is a fiercely capitalist and trade-oriented nation. The Dutch created the world's first stock market. Companies like Philips, Shell, and Unilever are global giants. But they have woven a capitalist economy together with a deep commitment to social solidarity. It's the Polder model again, scaled up to the national economy. a consensus that the fruits of prosperity should be used to build a floor through which no one is allowed to fall. It's a freedom that is less dramatic than the freedom to become a billionaire, but for the vast majority of people, it is a freedom that is far more meaningful. The freedom to live a stable, dignified life. The Netherlands is a country that hides its most astonishing secrets in plain sight. You can live your whole life here and still be surprised by the ingenuity and strangeness that lie just beneath the surface. The quaint facade of windmills and canals conceals a nation of radical innovators and master engineers who have bent the laws of nature to their will. This is the unseen Netherlands. Let's begin with the most fundamental, mind-blowing fact of all. This country, as it exists today, should not be here. The name Netherlands literally means Low Countries, and it is not a metaphor. The lowest point is nearly 7 meters or 23 feet below sea level. Schiphol Airport, one of Europe's busiest hubs, sits on the bed of a drained lake, more than 4 meters below the waves. If the Dutch were to suddenly stop their daily battle against water, half of the country would disappear. For centuries, the iconic windmills were the engines of this survival, pumping water out of the low-lying polders. Today, that work is done by an unimaginably complex, high-tech network of dikes, dams, pumps, and barriers. It is the most sophisticated water defense system on the planet, a national project that never, ever ends. After the catastrophic 1953 flood, which killed nearly 2,000 people, the Dutch said, "Never again." They embarked on the Delta Works, one of the most ambitious engineering projects in human history. It was a multi-decade endeavor to dam the major estuaries of the Southwest, shortening the coastline and protecting it from storm surges. Its final piece, the Maaslandkering, is a fully automated flood barrier protecting Rotterdam. Its 2 arms are as long as the Eiffel Tower is tall. It is designed to withstand a 1 in 10,000-year storm. But now, facing climate change and rising sea levels, the Dutch are innovating again. The new philosophy is not just to fight the water, but to live with it. They are building floating communities, amphibious houses, and vast urban parks that double as emergency reservoirs. The Ruimte voor de Rivier, Room for the River, project is a paradigm shift. Instead of building dikes ever higher, they are moving them inland, widening rivers, and creating natural spillways. They are trading a little bit of land for a lot more security. This is not just engineering. It is a national mindset, an endless cycle of foresight, planning, and adaptation. It's a humbling reminder that in the Netherlands, the ground beneath your feet is not a given. It is a precious, hard-won, and constantly defended achievement. Living here is a daily act of faith in technology, in community, and in the enduring power of human ingenuity. If a nation's soul can be found in its infrastructure, then the soul of the Netherlands is made of steel, rubber, and a bicycle chain. The numbers are staggering. There are more bicycles in the Netherlands than people. Some 23 million bikes for 17.5 million residents. The Dutch cycle, on average, 1,000 kilometers per year. A quarter of all trips in the country are made by bike. In cities like Amsterdam and Utrecht, that number rises to over 60%. This is not a hobby. It is not a sport. It is the primary and most logical mode of transport. This didn't happen by accident. In the post-war boom of the 1950s and 60s, the Netherlands, like the rest of the world, fell in love with the automobile. Cities were being redesigned to accommodate cars, with old neighborhoods torn down to make way for roads. Traffic fatalities skyrocketed, particularly among children. But then the Dutch did something remarkable. They pushed back. A social movement called Stop de Kindermoord, Stop the Child Murder, began protesting the dominance of the car. Combined with the 1973 oil crisis, which saw the government ban driving on Sundays, the nation had a moment of profound reflection. They chose a different path. Over the next 4 decades, they systematically and intentionally redesigned their country for the bicycle. It was a massive investment, but the returns have been extraordinary. The health benefits alone are stunning. The regular, gentle exercise contributes to Dutch people living longer, healthier lives. It saves their healthcare system billions of euros. Economically, the money not spent on cars, fuel, and expensive road maintenance is a massive boon. Environmentally, it's a triumph. But the most profound benefit is social. When you move through your city on a bicycle, your experience of it is completely different. You are not sealed in a metal box. You hear the sounds of your neighborhood. You see your neighbors. You are connected to your environment and your community in a direct, physical way. It fosters a more human-scale existence. The freedom of the bicycle is a daily reality for every Dutch person, from the Prime Minister to a kindergartner. It is the freedom to move through your world safely, cheaply, and happily. It is a quiet revolution that has made the Netherlands one of the most pleasant places on earth to simply exist. Beyond the grand engineering projects and the revolutionary urban planning, there is a quieter, more intimate side to the Netherlands. It's a world defined by unique cultural concepts and social structures that shape the rhythm of daily life. To truly understand this country, you must understand its soul. And the soul of the Netherlands can be found in one untranslatable word: Gezelligheid. Gezelligheid. It has no direct English equivalent. The closest words we have, coziness, conviviality, homeliness, all fall short. Gezelligheid is not a thing, it is a feeling of warmth, comfort, and belonging. It is the pleasant feeling of being with people you care about in a comfortable, relaxed atmosphere. It's an antidote to the cold, wet North Sea weather and perhaps an antidote to the pressures of modern life. The Dutch actively cultivate Gezelligheid. It is an intentional act. They light candles. They fill their homes with flowers and plants. They prioritize time spent with friends and family over just about anything else. Their homes themselves are a testament to this. Walk down any Dutch residential street at night and you'll notice something striking. The curtains are often wide open. The large windows, a feature designed to let in as much precious light as possible, offer a glimpse into these sanctuaries of Gezelligheid. There's a historical explanation for this, dating back to Calvinist traditions, suggesting that if you have nothing to hide, you should let people see into your home and your life. It's a sign of an honest and upstanding household, but today, it functions as a form of passive social connection, a quiet declaration of community. It says, "We are all here, together, living our lives." It's a remarkable display of social trust, unimaginable in many other cultures. This pursuit of Gezelligheid explains so much about Dutch life. It explains why they value their time so fiercely, why the 6 p.m. family dinner is sacred, and why their homes are not just houses, but deeply personal havens. It is the emotional heart of a society that, for all its pragmatism, understands that the true measure of a life is in its quality, not its quantity. For over a decade, study after study from organizations like UNICEF has come to the same startling conclusion. Dutch children are, consistently, the happiest in the developed world. This isn't an accident. It's the result of a cultural approach to parenting and education that is profoundly different from the high-pressure, achievement-obsessed models seen in many other Western nations. The Dutch philosophy can be summed up in 3 words: rust, reinheid, and regelmaat. Rest, cleanliness, and regularity. It's an old-fashioned mantra that emphasizes a calm, predictable, and stable environment for children. Dutch parents are famous for letting their children be children. There is less emphasis on early academic achievement and more on social skills, play, and well-being. Formal schooling starts later. Homework is minimal, especially in primary school. The pressure to get into the right preschool or to master multiple languages by the age of 5 simply doesn't exist. This freedom is built on a foundation of immense trust. Dutch parents trust their children to be independent from a very young age. Kids cycle to school on their own, play outside unsupervised, and navigate their own social worlds. This, in turn, is only possible because Dutch society trusts itself. Parents trust that the bike lanes are safe. They trust that their neighbors will look out for their kids. They trust that the social fabric is strong enough to allow for this kind of childhood freedom. The education system reflects this. It's well-funded and equitable, but it is not a battlefield of competition. From a young age, the focus is on developing intrinsic motivation. The goal is to create well-rounded, self-sufficient, and socially competent individuals, not just academic superstars. The lesson here is a profound one. By taking the pressure off, you might just get better results. You get children who are not just smart, but are also resilient, independent, and genuinely happy. A freedom of childhood that is, perhaps, the most precious freedom of all. There is one aspect of Dutch freedom that can be quite a shock to outsiders. It is the freedom from, well, the freedom from tact. Dutch directness is legendary. In a culture that values efficiency and honesty, small talk is often seen as a waste of time, and white lies are viewed with suspicion. If you ask a Dutch person for their opinion, you will get it. Unfiltered, unvarnished, and delivered without the soft, polite buffers that most other cultures take for granted. They will tell you that you have something stuck in your teeth. They will tell you your new haircut doesn't suit you. In a business meeting, they will bluntly tell you your idea is not a good one, and then explain exactly why. To an American, a Brit, or a Japanese person, this can come across as rude, arrogant, or even cruel. But in the Dutch context, it is the opposite. It is a sign of respect. This directness is the social lubricant of the Polder model. Consensus and compromise only work if everyone puts their cards on the table. You need to know exactly where everyone stands. The Dutch value authenticity over superficial pleasantries. Once you understand the cultural code, it can be incredibly liberating. It creates relationships, both personal and professional, with a remarkable lack of ambiguity. You never have to guess what a Dutch person is thinking. They will have already told you. It's a freedom from second-guessing, from passive aggression, from the mental energy wasted trying to decode polite but meaningless social signals. It can be jarring, yes, but it is also clean, efficient, and in its own way deeply honest. It is the freedom to simply say what you mean, and to trust that the person you're speaking to will do the same. No country is a utopia. The Dutch model, for all its successes, is not without its strains and its paradoxes. The very forces that have made it so successful, its openness, its density, its pragmatism, are now creating some of its most difficult challenges. The image of a perfectly tranquil and tolerant society is beginning to show cracks. For decades, the story of the Netherlands was one of abundance. An abundance of space won from the sea, an abundance of social trust, an abundance of prosperity. Today, it is increasingly a story of scarcity. The most acute problem is housing. The Netherlands is one of the most densely populated countries on Earth. A combination of a growing population, an influx of expats and immigrants, and a shortage of new construction has sent housing prices into the stratosphere. Young Dutch people, the children of the happiest generation, are finding it nearly impossible to buy a home. The freedom to build a stable life, a cornerstone of the Dutch dream, is under threat. The social contract feels, to some, like it is breaking, and the legendary Dutch tolerance is being tested as never before. The arrival of large immigrant populations, particularly from Muslim countries, has created social tensions and a fierce debate over national identity. The ideal of a multicultural society has clashed with the deep-seated Dutch desire for social conformity and assimilation. The Polder model of consensus is strained when the participants no longer share the same fundamental cultural values. This has led to the rise of populist, anti-immigration political parties, a phenomenon that would have been unthinkable 30 years ago. The murder of the flamboyant and controversial politician Pim Fortuyn in 2002, and later the filmmaker Theo van Gogh, were seismic shocks to the nation's soul. They shattered the illusion of a nation immune to the political violence and polarization seen elsewhere. The paradox of the gedoogbeleidt drug policy is also becoming untenable. While the front door of the coffee shop is open and friendly, the illegal back door has fueled a powerful and incredibly violent criminal underworld. Drug-related gang wars and assassinations, once unheard of, have become a shocking new reality, challenging the country's reputation for safety. The Netherlands is at a crossroads. Can a society built on consensus and homogeneity adapt to a future that is more diverse, more crowded, and more globalized? Can the pragmatism that solved the problems of the 20th century solve the more complex cultural challenges of the 21st? These are the questions being debated fiercely in Parliament, in cafes, and at dinner tables across the country. The answers will determine if the unique Dutch model of freedom can endure. So, we return to our question. Is the Netherlands the freest country in the world? If your definition of freedom is absolute individualism, the unrestricted right to pursue wealth and power above all else, then the answer is probably no. The high taxes, the dense regulations, the immense social pressure to conform, these would feel restrictive to you. But what if freedom isn't a destination? What if it's not a mountain to be conquered, but a garden to be tended? The Dutch have created a different kind of liberty. It is a freedom of balance. It is the balance between individual liberty and collective responsibility, the balance between a fiercely capitalist economy and a compassionate social safety net, the balance between work and life, the balance between fighting the water and living with it, the balance between radical pragmatism and the deep human need for Gezelligheid. This is not a perfect society. It is grappling with serious, painful challenges, but it is a society that is endlessly, stubbornly, trying to find equilibrium. It is a society built on a foundation of trust, forged in a battle against the sea, that dares to ask the most fundamental question: how can we arrange our lives, together, to be as safe, as happy, and as dignified as possible? The freedom on offer in the Netherlands is not the explosive freedom of a firework. It is the quiet, enduring glow of a candle in a window on a dark, wet night. It is the freedom to ride your bike home from a job you don't hate, to a home you can afford, to a family you have time for, in a place where you are safe. For many people, in an increasingly chaotic and insecure world, that may be the most profound and desirable freedom of all.